Guys, the potential impact that this could have is devastating. I'm sure you guys have all heard about it now, the RPM Act. A lot of YouTubers and people on social media are pushing this RPM Act, asking for signatures, and it's important. And I wasn't going to make this video, but I got something to say about it. I said I wasn't going to make this video because my platform is relatively small, especially compared to a lot of the guys out there that are talking about this right now, and gals, with much larger audiences, much larger voices. But I think sometimes we think of things too narrowly, and I just want to give my perspective on it. Take it or leave it. If you haven't really looked into what this all is about, essentially what it comes down to is that the EPA is at it again. They got their grubby little fingers in things that they really should just leave alone. They like to think that they know what's best for us, so they, like to throw ideas around and make rules and regulations. And we've already felt their thumb being pressed down on us especially car enthusiasts. Now, there hasn't been any legislation, as far as I know, put forward yet. But what they have done is say that they are making it a priority to focus their attention on basically the aftermarket world of the auto industry. But what they've made clear is that they're coming after automotive enthusiasts. So what they want to do is make it illegal, essentially, to turn a street car into a dedicated race car. There's already rules in place, right, in terms of emissions controls. You're not allowed to run test pipes or, straight pipes eliminating catalytic converters. That's illegal. And it's made clear that test pipes, long tube headers, things like that, are for off-road use only. Some of us get a little bit complacent. We see things like this and we don't think our signatures or our voices matter, and we just kind of let it go, and we hope other people will take care of it. It doesn't really bother us, right? A lot of us can't afford to purchase another car and then put all the money that it takes into building a race car and then not use it for anything else. A lot of us have dual purpose cars, right? We drive them every day for work, but we like to take them to the track on the weekends, and that's cool. But that's not going to be possible either. The amount of damage that could do to the industry by itself is massive. There just aren't that many people, just on the surface, there's not that many people that can own and build a dedicated race car, from a street car. There's very few of us that can do that. The EPA is saying you can't even do that. You can't even do that. So that eliminates the entire segment of people taking street cars and converting them into race cars, and that just leaves just regular race cars. I mean, you have to have a racing team and a manufactured race. I mean, I don't even know what the expectation is. Like I said, you might hear the EPA saying, oh, you're not allowed to take a street car and turn it into a dedicated race car. And because most of us aren't doing that kind of stuff, we're like, oh, that doesn't really impact us. But it does, because what they're doing is going after the companies and the manufacturers that make a lot of these parts, and their goal is to shut them down. There are already claims of EPA representatives going into some of these shops and threatening them. There's been shops already, or companies that produce headers, for example, that are for off-road use only. And they say that, they state that. But because they can't guarantee that the people buying the headers are using them properly, that they would rather than being associated with illegal activity, they would just stop producing them. That's awful. Now, this is going to extend to supercharger manufacturers, turbo manufacturers, tuners. A lot of us have tuned vehicles, right? Well, according to the EPA, that's going to be a no-go. So not only is it killing our hobby as enthusiasts, more importantly, they are going to essentially wipe out an entire industry, from manufacturers to tuners. And just think about that. Think about the thousands and thousands of jobs, thousands of families that are going to be impacted by this. It might not strike us all that close to home if you're just, into doing a little bit of suspension work here and there, light modifications. It's going to touch us all. So what the RPM Act is, basically, it's put forth trying to get the RPM Act into legislation to protect this industry. And so what we can do is add our name to the list in support of the RPM Act. We can also reach out to our representatives in Congress and try to get them to support the RPM Act as well. I would go so far as to say that we need to maybe reach out to some of these bigger corporations. Think about Summit Racing, Garrett Turbos, MagnaFlow, Flowmaster, Holly, these big companies that are involved in the aftermarket world. And I'm sure they're into it. I'm sure they're involved. But they're the ones with the corporate structure. The lawyers, the bigwigs that have contacts in Washington, D.C., lobbyists. I've seen a couple of videos, a couple of YouTubers talking about this or bringing it up, and I've seen this before, so it's easy to get complacent. And again, especially if you're talking about making dedicated race cars, that kind of goes past people that aren't even in that realm, right? But it's important for all of us, because look at the industries that it could impact. You might not be building a dedicated race car, but if that company goes away that produces those parts for the people that do build dedicated race cars, you don't have access to those parts either. But on a larger scale, like I said, think about the family's impact, the impact on the employees of these companies, from engineers down to, facilities maintenance guys. I mean, if these big companies, these big entities go away, those hundreds and thousands of jobs go away with them, and that's just no good. So check out the links in the description below to the RPM Act. Add your name to the list. Reach out to these big companies. Reach out to your local representatives, your state representatives in Congress. Let's make sure that the EPA keeps their grubby little fingers off of our industry. I deal with EPA regulations on a daily basis in my professional life, my real life. And, I know too well the impact that they can have on businesses and how they operate. And it's just best to keep them away, to be quite honest. So again, check out the links in the description below. If you guys have any additional input, this is just how I understand from what I've read about the EPA, what they're trying to do, what the RPM Act is trying to accomplish. But if you have anything to add, please put it down in the comment section below. The best thing we can do, really, in addition to adding our names to the list, is educate ourselves on the topic and see what other impact or how else we can, push forward with things like this. So thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you for the continued support. I appreciate it very, very much. Onward and upward for Speed Culture Studios, and more positive, happy, peaceful videos to come. Thanks a lot. We'll see you in the next one.